Well, we're still face down in Oktoberfest and another German supermarket has joined the party. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, Oktoberfest is well and truly underway. If you've been following this channel for the last month, that's all we've been covering, pretty much. In fact, it is all I've been covering. We spoke a lot about the massive little Oktoberfest box and whether that was any good or not in the previous videos, along with, of course, the core 6 Oktoberfest beers themselves. One of those core 6 was in that little box, and one of them is now in ALDI. This video is primarily going to be a review of this Erdinger Oktoberfest Weissbeer, as it probably says in the title below, but I did want to talk a little bit about ALDI's offering this year and which of these bottles you should be buying, if any at all. Now, if any of you have seen my Paulaner Oktoberfest beer review for this year, you will know that I absolutely raved about it. I think it's fantastic. I bought a load of them, and actually I also just bought a couple more to replace the ones I already drank because I am genuinely head over heels about it. I will say it's probably not for everyone. It is very sweet. It's got kind of a honey note to it, but it is balanced as well, and if you just like big, rich, properly rich lagers, then that you're in for an absolute treat for. And at £2 a pop, not even £2, £1.99 a pop in ALDI, that is an absolute steal. £1.99, it happens to be the price of all of these bottles sat in front of me, but these aren't the only ALDI Oktoberfest options there are, but these are probably the 4 you might want to consider. In terms of properly special Oktoberfest beers, well, actually there are only 2, the Paulaner and the Erdinger Oktoberfest Weissbeer, that I'm going to review in full in a minute, so I'm not going to talk too much about that one just yet. The other 2, well, one is also a Weissbeer, that is the Franziskaner. Not that special, just in the fact that you can get it in most places most of the time in the UK right now. However, I normally reckon it retails between £2.50 on an offer or £3 on its own, so £1.99 for that is a steal. If you like your proper, big, rich, intense Weiss beers, then yeah, the Franziskaner, £1.99 a pop, absolute steal. Go get some of those. The Spartan, in my mind, is the weak one of the bunch here. Now, it's important to note, this is not the Spartan Oktoberfest beer for this year. This is just their generic, I think it's a München Lager, I believe it's called. Yeah, I'll give you a quick look at the bottle. Now, I have tried one of these this year, and I had it last year as well. And I think the rest of the year, you would buy that at £1.99 and be very, very happy with your purchase. The problem is, right now, it's Oktoberfest season, and when stuff like that is on the shelves at the same price, it starts to look a bit washy. But if you don't like your big rich lager and you want something just decent German quality, but a little bit reserved, a little bit chill, you know, just something not too intense, then actually that Spartan is probably a great shout. But just be aware that it's nothing truly special, but still just at a decent price. In addition to these 4 bottles, ALDI have also put on bottles of Beck's, which, whilst being German, is just as generic as it gets, so I wasn't even going to buy one of those. It's just, they just put it there because it looks like it fills the shelf out a bit. And they've also got a box of beers from Brewdog called, well, Brewdog's Oktoberfest beer or something. There'll be a picture of it just here. They're only selling it by the box, and to be honest, it just felt a bit disingenuous to me. The whole use of the Oktoberfest phrase, I think they can call it Oktoberfest, but not an Oktoberfest beer. It's murky waters in terms of kind of conservation name statuses in Europe. Obviously, UK is not in Europe anymore, but we did adapt some of the rules. It's all a bit blurry, so I'm sure they've found a way to get around it. Adding to the fact that Oktoberfest is all meant to be about big, high ABV, deluxe lagers, Marzens, and that sort of thing. Weiss beers, of course. And, well, I think it's 4.2 or 4.3% and a Pilsner. That's kind of as far away as you can get from an Oktoberfest beer with it still remaining in, broadly speaking, the same styles. So let's bosh that one out of the way and get down to business with the Erdinger Oktoberfest Weissbeer. Here we go then, from Erdinger, their Oktoberfest Weissbeer. It is a 5.7% Weissbeer, 500ml bottle. And as I said, coming in at a bargain at £1.99 in ALDI right now. Great little bit of artwork on there, very seasonal Oktoberfesty and the rest of it. It has got a back label with heaps of info on, but it's all a bit too small to read, including the ABV. In the UK, you are meant to make the ABV very, very obvious, but you really do have to dig around in the small print of this bottle to find it. But it is 5.7%, and truthfully, I have had one of these already. I drank one of these on a live stream over on the Craft Beer Hub's channel. Go check him out if you want some more craft beery content. And we were talking about this last Friday, and it was a very, very nice beer, which is why I wanted to review it. But I don't want to give too much away, and also it wasn't the first beer I drank that day, so my taste buds might have been influenced a little bit by other things. Therefore, right here, right now, we're going to do it justice. So, a small round of applause, please. I finally acquired myself a proper Weissbeer glass in which to pour this delicious-looking Weissbeer. One thing I've been trying to do recently is perfect my Weissbeer pouring, and in fact, we need to get it all into the glass at a medium pace. You don't want it to rocket off because it is quite lively, Weissbeer, but then there is a little bit of yeast and goodness in the bottom that you actually want in the glass. That is the proper way to drink it. So you save a little bit of beer in there, swill it round, and then top it up right at the end to get the full effect. So and then set it down, give it a little swizz around, and there we have a pretty fantastic looking glass of Erdinger Oktoberfest Weissbeer. Right then, in the glass, no real surprise, it does look like Weissbeer. It's a bit hazy, it's foggy, it's yellowy. It's more on the yellow than the orange side. On camera, from your perspective, it does look quite orange, but it has got like a nice, bright, fresh visual intensity. If I hold it away from the light, it's almost a little lagery in terms of the appearance, but like a hazy lager rather than a proper depthy, rich Weissbeer. I suspect that's intentional to get that kind of Oktoberfest vibe, something kind of akin to both a Weissbeer and that traditional Oktoberfest darker, richer lager thing. It's got a nice foamy white head on it. It's not too big at this point. Could do with being a little larger, but I think I was a bit reserved with the pour, not wanting for it to just start going everywhere, so we'll let them off for that. The condition of the head, though, does look absolutely fantastic. Great carbonation in the glass. Let's get into the aromas. It's one of those beers. It's one of those beers that you stick your nose over it and you can't help but smile. Soft, sweet, lemon and orange. The yeast, obviously, being a Weissbeer, is there. It's prominent. But interestingly, it has got that kind of de facto sweet, shoppy, yeasty character, but it feels fresher. It doesn't feel like it's going to be overbearing. It's quite juicy, almost a little bit tropical fruity, not in the same way that hops get tropical, but more like, I think, like tropical fruit sweets. It's that kind of aroma to some degree. I'm looking for a bit of spice, a little bit of malt. I think I can trick myself into thinking I can smell a little bit of a kind of a cakey bread, sweet bread malt in there, but it's really subtle, it's really low down. And to be honest, it might just be nonsense and just have something going on up here. So yes, the malt's not really there. There's not much spice to talk about as there are in some Weiss beers and wheat beers. But yeah, what is there is absolutely glorious. So let's get into it. Cheers. Happy Oktoberfest. That is a fantastic sessionable fest beer. Now, of course, I mean, from the flavour, it's 5.7%. You get carried away with this, you're going to know about it, but it has this brilliant balancing act of bringing the decadence, the extra, the OTT that you get from a proper hardcore Weiss beer like the Franziskaner over here, but it starts to peel away very quickly, almost gets a bit sherbety, lemon, fizz, like kind of thing, and then towards the back end, the malt is there and prominent, which is sometimes something you just don't really get a lot of in Weiss beer. Sometimes it's all about that yeast profile, and the malt just, whilst it's there, doesn't really get to shine. It absolutely does in this. And the aftertaste I'm getting at this point, it's almost kind of dry, biscuity, shortbread. Yeah, that is a very, very nice Weiss beer. Right then, we'll take another sip just to see if there's anything else to discuss. Argument for calling it a touch thin. The carbonation does feel a little bit OTT right now, but as I said, I think I was a little bit delicate on the pour. So I'm going to try and move this around in the glass, try and get it breathing, try and get some of that CO2 released. And then we'll do a top to bottom taste test so you can understand exactly what I'm waffling on about with this frankly glorious beer. Okay, I think I've got it all sorted out. So initially, sharp carbonation with a little bit of lemon. Initially I was like, oh, is that quite a sharp lemon? But it's not getting you in the sourness. It's just very prickly, right on the front of the tongue. Tiny, almost sweet lemon. The orange from the aroma comes in. Mid-palate, you actually start to get some of the mineral quality from the water. Something I talked a lot about in that kind of core 6 Oktoberfest beers, especially with things like the Paulaner. But it's not something you always see in Weissbeers. And don't get me wrong, it's not the most obvious note here, but it's not something I really recognise from a lot of the others that I've had in the past. Along with that, that sweet lemon, orange, citrus bag starts to ramp up a little bit along with the carbonation, and it does result in this slightly dry, slightly sweet, sherbety effect that makes it, yeah, it's very appealing. It's not too much, it's still subtle, it's still soft. And then the back of the tongue, the bitterness ramps up. You actually do start to get some of that hop profile. Again, not something we say a lot about in Weissbeers, but if you leave it there and let it linger, there is a distinct, bitter, slightly earthy, slightly grassy, but not particularly dank hop note. It's quite fresh, but still very earthy, if that makes any sense at all. But the aftertaste is where all the magic happens on this, because you get a nice explosion, the yeast comes in, that sweet shop vibe, tropical sweets that I mentioned before, that washes out, and it almost goes a bit like disappointingly loose and watery. And you're thinking, oh, is that it? But sit there for a moment, and this little shortbready malt bill just starts to fill it in from the back, and it's just, yeah, it's very pleasant, it's enjoyable, it's slightly sweet, not too sweet. The thing about this Weissbeer actually that I think is really doing it for me. The Franziskaner is a fantastic Weissbeer, it's really full-bodied, it's really rich. The regular Erdinger Weissbeer is a little bit tame, like it's almost too lagery on the back end. It feels like a nice bit of middle ground. I feel like I was very excited about this beer early doors, and maybe the actual delivery of what I'm experiencing doesn't seem to quite correlate with that. And I think the reason is, it's just such an enjoyable drink. There is enough going on to really keep you engaged with it and be able to appreciate it, but it's not necessarily a thinking beer. You can definitely just sit down and chat away while sipping on one of these, because it does hit you with a few big bits of flavour throughout the entire palate, but it doesn't keep them lingering. Everything gets washed out and replaced pretty quickly, and as I say, that slightly shortbready malt aftertaste in this, along with, now I think about it, a little bit of bitterness just kind of tickling the back of your cheeks, keeps you coming back for another sip, and it is just very, very nice. I would have been interested to pitch this against the Weissbeer that was in that little box. It was the Schneider Weiss, I think it was tap 4, their Oktoberfest Weiss beer, and that, I felt it was very similar. I was quite positive about that overall, to be fair, ranked it pretty highly. I feel like I'm preferring this, but they are very, very close. So if you've had one, keep in mind that I think they are similar. I think side by side you'd see massive differences, you always do, but in terms of an overall experience, yeah, it's pretty much level pegging with that one, though given the choice, I think I'd buy both. Honestly, if I could buy bottles of either, I'd be picking up equal numbers of both of them, I think. But I can buy as many of these as I want right now at $1.99 a bottle from ALDI, so I have. I've actually got quite a few of them. That aftertaste just got me again. It's soft, it's subtle, it's sweet, it's bitter, it's malty, it's just perfectly balanced, and yeah, it makes me very happy. It really does. It's very nice indeed. I think really that is all I've got to say about it. It is a massive thumbs up for this beer. It's not the most Weissy of Weiss beers, but actually I think it's a hell of a lot better than their regular one. So if you do like their regular one that you can get in most supermarkets in the UK right now, and you like it but you just fancy something a bit extra, yeah, this is the way to go. It's a very good one, and as I say, I think these are the 4 to go and get from ALDI in the UK for this Oktoberfest right now. I went back today. They'd already been out for a week at the time of recording, and I think they'll still be out for another week or 2 after this video drops. But the good news was they had absolutely loads in. So yeah, go and stock yourselves up on these 4. And if anyone happens to try that slightly depressing sounding Brewdog Oktoberfest beer, let me know in the comments below what you thought to it. Should I be going out and buying it, or were my assumptions correct? But I just didn't fancy spending, I think it was 13 quid a box, when I could buy, well, nearly 7 more of these bottles for that, which I know are absolutely ace. And that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you would be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.